Hello everyone, thank you for joining me here today. This is It's Not a Trap, Gender in Anime, and today we will be talking about gender in anime. Appreciate you all coming. What is a trap? Trap is an internet slang term used to refer to a fictional character whose outward appearance is inconsistent with one's perceived gender. This term was initially popularized by anime and manga fans in the early 2000s to call out images of femininely dressed or androgynous-looking male characters. Around the same time, this Admiral Akbar meme gained popularity. The phrase became closely associated with traps on 4chan, a slang term for a photograph of a model or an illustration of an anime character wherein the gender of the subject seems ambiguous or androgynous in appearance. Eventually it snowballed into its modern day spread and usage. Among the transgender community, it's considered a slur, and it's not hard to surmise why. It plays into classic stereotypes of transgender women as these sort of evil manipulators who hide their real sexual parts in order to trick men into fantasizing about them or getting intimate with them. And it's just not a good image, and it's not accepted by the community generally. And because this is, the early 2000s internet image boards, you're going to have the underlying implication that if you find a feminine male or a transgender woman attractive, that inherently makes you gay, and haha, that's funny in early 2000s internet image board logic. My goal with this panel is to look at some characters with interesting expressions of gender, many who would traditionally be considered traps, and look at their gender identity in a more nuanced and respectful way. So perhaps you can think a bit more about the characters you see on your own time. Real quick, I'd like to take a detour. Obama's half-brother tweeted that. During my research, I uncovered some interesting tweets that Obama's half-brother made about traps. What are traps? Starts off questioning. Lolly equals hentai equals traps equals bad anime, folks. Very opinionated. And then traps are gay. He's very certain about that one. And I'm not so much interested in Obama's half-brother, but this does bring up the question of how much Obama himself knows about traps and may have heard about traps. And it's something I like to think about. Ideas about gender in Japan. Part 1, historical femboys. This is an oversimplification for comedic effect. What is a bishonen? Literally meaning beautiful youth boy, a young man of androgynous beauty. This word originated from the Tang Dynasty poem Eight Immortals of the Wine Cup by Du Fu. It has always shown the strongest manifestation in Japanese pop culture, gaining popularity due to the androgynous glam rock bands of the 1970s, but it can of course be traced back to classic literature as well. Bishonen are very popular among girls and women in Japan. Reasons for this social phenomenon may include the unique male and female social relationships found within the genre. Some have theorized that a bishonen provide non-traditional outlet for gender relations. Moreover, it breaks down stereotypes surrounding male characters. They are often depicted with very strong martial arts abilities, sports talent, intelligence, dandy fashion, or comedic flair, traits that are usually assigned to the hero-protagonist role. On the left, we have a generic bishonen. In the middle, we have a historical bishonen. The aesthetic of the bishonen began as the ideal of a young lover, and it was influenced by the effeminate male actors who play female characters in kabuki theater. Yoshitsune here was considered by contemporaries to not be physically prepossessing, but that his legend later grew, and due to this, he became depicted with very good looks. On the right, we have 16-year-old Swedish actor Bjorn Andresen's role in the 1971 film Death in Finniss, which proved influential for many Japanese illustrators' depictions of shonen characters. And I never would have imagined that a film I never heard of would have been so influential across a genre like that, personally. Part 2, one half. What is a new half? This term's a much more recent development, and from what I've seen, it's only been traced back to as recently as the 1980s or so. I've seen the term associated with Matsubara Rumiko, who's in the middle there, a beauty contest winner in '81, who was revealed after the fact to be transgender. And the rules technically only specified a beautiful person, and so she kind of became iconic for that whole fiasco. Now, as for the origin of the term, essentially a mixed-race person in Japan may be referred to as a hafu, and it therefore follows that transgender women are called new half because they are a new hafu, half male, half female. Many transgender women in Japan reject this label because of the obvious connotation that they're not 100% their preferred gender. To call them anything other than their preferred gender would be insulting to them. And that isn't to say everyone rejects the term. In particular, it is known to be embraced by performers, celebrities, entertainers, etc. But even when you get into there, you have the question of if they actually prefer to be called that term, or if it is sort of the product of the industry that they choose to be in. It's been likened to the term ladyboy, if you've ever heard it, associated with Thai women. I'm sure many mixed-gendered people might use the term in earnest, don't get me wrong, but it's interesting to note the many cultural connotations that come with the word. This developing culture is all part of Japan's slow move towards acceptance of LGBTQIA people. Currently, the legal situation there is a bit behind compared to some countries, requiring you to be over 22, unmarried, undergoing sex reassignment surgery, sterilization, and having no kids under 20, all just to change your gender marker on legal documents. But I don't want to make this presentation a bummer, because it's important to remember that there are wonderful people all over the world who create social progress all the time, and sometimes that progress is reflected in anime. And so I'd like to talk about some cool anime with some characters with some interesting gender identities with you guys today. Now, it's important to note, part of the reason I was explaining the different gender roles in Japan is that they don't necessarily translate one-to-one to Western gender roles. So if I refer to a character as transgender or non-binary or whatever, that might not necessarily be a one-to-one representation of how they perceive themselves or how gender is perceived in Japan. I'm sure you guys get it. Let's start with Ranma Saotome from Ranma One Half, which, if you don't know, is a really old 1991 anime, before I was born. It's about a boy who is at a martial arts studio, and he gets splashed with water, and he turns into a girl, and his dad's a panda. Hence the one half in the title. It's sort of like new half, but he's literally one half girl half the time.
No, that's his dad.
It's pretty good if you ignore the racist caricatures of Chinese people that appear occasionally. Seriously though, it is an influential gender bender, and it has interesting elements. Dysphoria and the differing gender roles that Ranma has to undergo in the different states is sort of interesting to look at, and it's funny. And it's authored by Rumiko Takahashi, who is known for doing Inuyasha and Urusei Yatsura, if any of you are fans of those. Next we have Naruto Haku. Haku's sort of a Bishonen type, who Naruto canonically thinks is prettier than Sakura. I love Haku. We stan Haku. Except Haku is known for doing terrorism on a bridge. That's sort of the whole arc they were in. It was a lapse in judgment. Regardless. Let's talk about Ouran High School Host Club, Haruhi Fujioka. I've seen this character interpreted as non-binary, gender fluid. Regardless, Haruhi is iconic. They don't put much weight into gender roles. The premise of this anime is that Haruhi has been indebted to a host club, which is a club of gentlemen which serve lovely ladies, tea, go on little dates with them in order to make money off of them. Haruhi has been relatable to many gender non-conforming people. Their dad works as a professional crossdresser at an Okama bar, which is how it's referred to in the show, I believe, but I'd be careful using that term because it's sort of used as slang towards homosexual and queer people in Japan, and it might be seen as derogatory in certain contexts. And in my opinion, I think Haruhi should not stand for these rich kids forcing them to work for them. I really don't like it. I think they should stand up for themselves.
I actually wrote a paper in college for a class on gender about this anime.
Oh, that's lovely. I love that. Krona from Soul Eater. Krona, Soul Eater is about little Grim Reapers that harvest souls, essentially. Simplification. Krona is a character who is pure androgyny. The pronouns in Japanese are its, because non-binary identities weren't really normalized at the time, and for the English release it was changed to she, him. And Krona's just really anxious. Gotta love Krona. Kuranosuke Koibuchi from Princess Jellyfish. I love Princess Jellyfish. She is the cross-dressing son of a wealthy politician who teams up with a jellyfish nerd to save an apartment complex. The anime is a very beautiful exploration of societal and familial rejection, and the cross-dressing story does take a very center focus to the plot. So if you're wanting to watch an anime that specifically explores gender in detail, I really recommend this one. And it has a banging OST. Love it.
Jesse Grell, who is Kuranosuke's voice actor, is here.
Oh.
Kuranosuke's voice actor is available for to talk and he autographs it.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
They're really nice.
They are.
They signed a paper I wrote in college about another anime.
Up next, we have Yukimura Kusunoki from Haganai. I Don't Have Many Friends, 2011. This one's kind of confusing. I'll do my best to explain this one. It's a slice of life comedy. This character began the series presenting as a male who dressed effeminately, and then at some point discovered that he was actually a woman, but did not know it because she just had no understanding of gender. And then it completely swaps, and that now she's a woman dressing masculinely. And I'm not really sure how to interpret this, what the author was going for. I've thought about it. Some of this character's comedy has a lot of reliance on gasp, not the right gender type humor, you know. I'm sure you've seen it in anime. Fundamentally, this character did not understand biology, I felt. I was just, no hate if you like this show, it's just a very weird form of representation, I'd say. Ruka from Steins Gate. This is a really sweet one. Ruka is the inventor of time travel-based sex reassignment surgery.
Sweet but weird.
Yeah, excellent trans representation, there's supportive cast, and it supplements the main plot. Steins Gate is a time travel anime, and in order to transition into a female, Ruka sort of messaged her own pregnant mother to eat different foods in order to change her gender in the womb, which is pseudoscience, but if you think too hard about it or not hard enough, it sort of makes sense because the whole lore of the show is rooted in internet folklore. So, whatever. And I think the visual novel has a very pretty art style. Up next we have Chihiro Fujisaki from Danganronpa, who is a heavily transcoded programmer. But no one really watches the show for gender relations. They just want to watch teenagers murder each other, right? Daily Lives of High School Boys, 2013. I included this one on the list not because there's any necessarily trans characters or anything like that, but there are high school boys experimenting with skirts, and they get embarrassed, and I think it's really cute. Up next, we have Tetra from Log Horizon, 2013. Log Horizon is sort of a sword art online-ish, trapped in a video game, isekai anime, and this particular character was a male in the real world but had a female avatar and is perfectly happy to continue existing within that female avatar. I think this is pretty straightforward as some sort of trans representation. It's hard to see it any other way, if you ask me. Yu Kashima from Gekkan Shoujo Nozaki-kun, Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun. This is a slice of life anime, a romance about a guy who works on a monthly girls magazine. This character has some of that more heart-melting androgyny, you know, could be non-binary, could be some sort of trans masculine, could just be gay. But this character is nicknamed the Prince and does like to flirt with the ladies, I can tell you that much. And was supportive of their friend's perceived gender to cross-dress via a wacky slice of life misunderstanding. Let's talk about Ferris Argyle from Re:Zero. Re:Zero is an isekai anime where a guy dies a lot repeatedly and then gets better at not dying. This is a fun, loyal cat boy, cat girl character. I have not read the novels personally, but I've heard that they're more explicit about Ferris's transgenderism in the novels, which is nice to hear. And I can't help but wonder if you think it would feel weird to touch the sides of their head where the ears should be. I always think about that with cat characters. It's just flat. Let's talk about Hidori Kanzaki from Blend S. Wants to be a super cute idol, but already is in our hearts.
Aww.
You can see him there with the little arrow. I'm sure you might have seen the meme with the opening, smile, sweet, sister, sadistic. Hideki here, Hidori is the surprise. And the surprise is the penis, I suppose. Here we have Hoseki no Kuni, which is a very beautiful 3D anime. Rock has no innate sex characteristics. Let's start with that. These are rock characters. Therefore, non-binary rocks must be the cisgendered ones, and female-presented rocks must be trans, right? Trans rocks, something, something, Steven Universe. I did see a very beautifully written analysis of gender in Hoseki no Kuni, and I'd like to read you an excerpt. The theme of gender is part of the greater theme and identity and existence in Hoseki no Kuni. Gender queerness also has historical precedent in Buddhist mythology. Ichikawa has stated that the character designs are purposefully androgynous. Each gem has been shaped early in their existences without consent or malice. Thus begins a system that rewards uniformity. This mirrors real-world gender systems in that we do not choose our bodies. We are born into systems in which expectations are placed on us due to these bodies. Pronouns in the show are actually based more on personality and profession. It's very beautiful. I recommend looking at it, even if you don't have a chance to watch the whole thing. Rei Batsubami from Kakegurui. Who doesn't love Kakegurui? This character has a pretty explicit coming out scene with a lot of dramatic flair to it. I'm sure if you've seen other shows in the genre, you know everything has to be super dramatic with spotlights and music and whatnot going on, and this is no exception. There are themes of familial control that is undoubtedly familiar to many queer people. And I think it conveys its message really well. If you ever watched the second season of Kakegurui, you probably know. This is the most recent one I'd like to talk about on the list. Oshimai, I'm Now Your Sister. This one's kind of interesting. It's about a brother who's forcibly feminized by his little sister in order to turn his life around. He's still sort of treated like a boy within the context of the show as he's adjusting to his new life. It's not at all grounded in any like real life or how any sort of real social dynamic should work or how any sort of supportive family should like violently shove their brother out of the closet. But it does have elements of trans wish fulfillment through this exaggerated environment. And the show has been controversial due to having risque scenes, which has been censored in streaming releases over here in the West, because the character is underage. And lastly, I'd like to talk about One Piece. And I don't know if any of you are fans of One Piece, but I'm about to talk about a character I saw like 400 episodes in, I think. What is this? Emporio Ivankov uses his Emporio female hormones to become a big curvy woman. I get the teensy vibe this character may play into a few stereotypes. I think it's going to be my new sleep paralysis demon. The Wikipedia page referred to this character as an okama, you know, like I said, as a slang derogatory potentially term for homosexual queer people. I'm just not sure what to make of this one, and I'm not going to watch 400 episodes of One Piece to find out.
Is there any explanation given for like how that is helpful in any way?
I'm not the One Piece guy, I'm sorry.
Okay. Well,
I'm sure the explanation will also be when they
I'm not sure what their pronouns are, but he has like a power that can change people's hormones. So if you like stab somebody, they can change sex.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just some quick closing thoughts. Now that I've gotten through all the anime I wanted to recommend to you guys. Please do not call trans people traps. That is cringe. Thank you. I think traps are gay. Girls and you should respect them. Remember the acronym. Thank you all for coming.